I promise, this is a horror game. Instinct is a 2007 zombie game where the pace is broken up between spooky moments and combat moments. Fear is the perfect example of this kind of thing. However, where Instinct differs from a lot of horror games is the lack of jump scares. You may have some guts fall from the ceiling and enemies entering the level via air ducts, but nothing like spooky JPEGs flashing up on the screen or anything like that. It's my kind of horror game because even with how tame Instinct is, I still jump from time to time because I'm a big baby. If you're new to the channel, know that the lack of horror game reviews is not accidental. I truly crumble at the sight of a dark hallway. Instinct helps me out with the dark hallway sometimes because, well, it has some really fast-paced music. And it's funny because I presume this is supposed to be a tense moment, but listen to these jams. In fact, the whole game has just great soundtrack, and it even starts at the main menu. All right, I'm all over the place, so let's let's regroup and talk about the story a little bit. The story involves some special forces-looking dudes going into North Korea for an operation that isn't quite clear at the beginning. What I find funny is the Steam page in the back of the retail box says Elite American Military Squad.
Чё-то тихо здесь.
Сплюнь.
Ненавижу тишину. Двери заблокированы. Как спускаться будем? На лифте, да?
Однозначно.
Uh-huh. Sure. There's no English voice acting, only subtitles. In-game, you have to open up a journal to read what the characters are saying. How the story itself is told is a little disjointed, and you slowly learn plot details as the game progresses. While there are a few in-engine cutscenes, most of the plot is told through comic book-style panels with, you know, a narration.
Твою мать. Сижу тут один, как дурак. А так всегда и бывает. Если тебе очень хорошо, скоро будет очень хреново. К черту этих баб!
And I absolutely love these, man. It's like a scuff version of 13. The opening one is the most hilarious. You learn that it's not just two soldiers at the start of the game, but in fact a whole group of people were originally sent in on the mission. But yeah, that's kind of how the plot is handled, so let's talk about the gameplay. Instinct is a shooter in its purest, simplest form. You got a gun, there's no aiming down sights except for the sniper rifle. You have a few throwables, a couple melee weapons, that's it. There's no sprint, there's a little baby jump you'll only use occasionally. You can crouch, but usually it's just meant for traversal, and well, that's about it. It's somewhat refreshing playing a mid-2000s shooter from time to time. There's no gimmicks, there's no crazy mechanics, just shoot everything that moves with straightforward weapons. It's a nice thing to play every now and again. Speaking of weapons, there is a decent arsenal. Sure, half my footage will be of the shotgun because they make quick work of zombies, but you have a G36, AK-47, Beretta, Mossberg, M4A1, VSS, and an explosive crossbow that I have like no footage of. Oh yeah, and that on-rails minigun section that you saw at the beginning. The guns don't feel super different from each other. You know, the AK, for example, kicks like a mule, and the Beretta doesn't move an inch, but realistically, all the weapons are really easy to hit your target as long as you burst fire, or just, you know, kind of semi-auto it with your left-clicking. I have an idea of what guns are better than others, but I'm not sure if it's placebo or if they're truly better than one another, so honestly, I think it just depends on what you want to be holding in your hand and what gun the game decides to give you ammo for. All weapons are viable, and there's only one brief section where ammo was a problem, and even then it felt purposeful. It added to a tense situation. Most of the time you'll be given a steady supply of ammo, health, and armor. Instinct even does the classic, here's a ton of resources because you're about to encounter a tough fight. Instinct even does the classic, here's a ton of resources because you're about to encounter a tough fight. It's not survival horror, it's action horror. But you got the zombies, you got killer rats at random moments that's never explained. Then you got the normal soldiers, and you got commando soldiers, and there is a zombie with a shotgun. Characters rarely react to what's happening when it comes to the zombies anyway. One character makes a mention of them being gross, and that's kind of it. There are 3 characters you switch between when the plot demands it. It's nothing game-changing. It's more so seeing the events unfold from each perspective. The story could be summed up in like a sentence, but Instinct draws it out by flashing forward and backward and switching between these characters. Majority of the game looks the same because it all takes place in the same location. It's mostly corridors. And I've used corridor shooter as a derogatory term in the past, but there are ways to make it work. Usually it requires making a moody and spooky game, not, you know, a World War II shooter. Well, this script and tone will shift a little bit. This is a mid-script writing change due to an unfortunate technical issue. I haven't beaten the game yet, and then the devs released a patch to address a crash that would frequently happen at the beginning. A crash I wasn't going to mention because it seems like something that didn't happen to everyone, and the fix was just reinstalling it. After one hiccup, the game ran fine. Well, the problem is the patch the devs released to fix that crash led to a new problem for me. The screen shakes, and it doesn't stop even if I go back to an earlier save or start the game over. I reinstalled the game, and sure enough, shakes. Awesome. And from what I understand from a long play on YouTube, I was really close to the end. The problem is even if starting over fixed the shakes, I'm reading on the forums that there is a new crash in one of the labs areas. So even if I could start over, I may get interrupted again by a crash. So for now, until more patches are released, maybe don't buy this, especially since I'm being told that there's even more subtitles missing now. There was this one cutscene where there's no subtitles, and you figure you're getting a lot of important plot details here. I kind of shrugged it off as, you know, with the following comic book panels, it was pretty clear what was happening. But yeah, I didn't have any subtitles here, but now I'm learning that there's more cutscenes without subtitles because I guess they just forgot to put them back in. It's a shame because I was genuinely enjoying the game. I was ready to recommend it at the drop of a hat because it is pretty darn good. The later stages of the game is a nice bow on top of a neat little slobjank package because at the end you get to move quicker and you're shooting assault rifles one-handed. It's a commando type thing. The plot explains why this is the case, but I would like to leave some mystery for when everyone checks this game out, assuming the devs fix it. Anyway, that was a kind of a mid-script edit after that happened. Instinct is fun. I'm having a great time. It's the perfect level horror for me. No complaints really besides the typical slobjank stuff, like there's times where you could see the enemies spawn in. And when you sit back and look at it, it's clear why I enjoy it so much, beyond just being a fan of slobjank. It was developed by the same people behind You Are Empty. Now it's not nearly as good or memorable as You Are Empty, but the passion is still there and clear. I wish this team made a lot more games because I could tell that, you know, they had fun making this stuff. This was a fun game to explore, and I hope all of you get a chance to check it out one day, assuming it gets fixed. For now, I'm going to stare at my games and decide what to record next. Who knows what it'll be? I sure don't. So I'll see you in the next video of whatever that ends up being.